So, welcome everyone. As I mentioned just before the meditation, this is the first installment of the Clear Mountain Monastery YouTube channel. My name is Ajahn Kovilo, and myself and Tan Nisabho are spearheading this project of hopefully getting some momentum together for a monastery to crop up in the greater Seattle area. So with hopes of that end, we've created this YouTube channel, and we can probably get to know each other. I think Tan Nisabho will actually be touching down to the Seattle area in July, and as for myself, I'll be coming and meeting people, coming to stay at the monastery probably for a few weeks each winter and for a couple months each summer for the next couple years. I'm currently in a degree program at Dharma Realm Buddhist University, so am involved in that for the next few years, but then after this program is finished, then I will hopefully be coming to coming to Clear Mountain, which hopefully by that time will have some buildings. So so we've set as the topic of conversation for this morning to be the duty of monks. So what is it that a monk does? An earlier iteration of the name of this talk was Why Monks Matter. And that's a complicated question. But with this question of what is a monk's duties? What does a monk do? Able to find a great discourse, which is one of my favorites. It's called the Sigalika Sutta, Digha Nikaya number 31. And we've got a link in the YouTube notes, so you could read along if you want. But we'll mostly be going into the Buddha's description of the reciprocal relationship between monastics and lay people. This is it's a great discourse in general. I was so happy to come across it as I was first beginning to be interested in Buddhism. Like most people, my initial interest in Buddhism was through meditation, and I didn't really have any idea of what the Buddha's teachings were like on a larger scale, or what his teachings for society were, if he had any. I was happy to find this discourse, which is really about less of the different rights of different kinds of groups in society, and more about the responsibilities of different types of groups towards one another. So in this discourse, you have the Buddha giving advice about how children should relate to parents, or of how one spouse should relate to the other spouse, or how one friend should relate to another friend, or how a student should relate to their teacher, or an employee to their employer. And so all of that is great advice, and it's very specific. Each one of those classes of people has specific advice which the Buddha gives to them about how to fulfill that role, which is pretty cool because you don't really get much input on that in modern day America. I mean, there are lots of opinions growing around about how to be a good parent, or maybe not so much about how to be a good child, or how to be a good student or a respectful student. But these are important things. So the Buddha actually does touch on them, but all of the things I've mentioned so far are fully applicable and fully apparent in modern day American society. But one thing which isn't, which the Buddha does go into, is this role of the samana, or this role of the religious monastic, and how that monastic relates to society. So in this list, the Buddha gives 6 different suggestions for how a monk should relate to lay people, and then gives 5 instructions for how lay people should relate to monastics. So of the 6 ways that a monastic should relate to lay people, again, it's in the show notes down below the video, but the first one is that the monk should keep them from doing what's wrong, from doing what's bad, should support them in doing what's good. The monastic should think of the lay people with kindly thoughts. They should teach them what they haven't heard, clarify what they have heard, and teach the way to heaven. Teach the way to heaven. So we'll try to unpack each of these, and if there's time, which there probably won't be, but if there is, then maybe we can go into those 5 duties of a layperson to monastics. So yeah, and again, duty it could be a complicated word as well. The whole of the Buddhist teachings is about liberation, and oftentimes you think of the word duty as being this kind of outside stricture, which is kind of forced upon you, but certainly from the monastic point of view, we've all the monks have voluntarily taken robes, and yeah, we can leave anytime we want. Basically, all we have to do is say, with a mind that actually intends to do it, I disrobe, and hopefully have a witness. And if we do that, then we're no longer a monk. It's just that easy. So there's no compulsion to have to stay in robes forever. This is a vocation or a way of life that we've taken on voluntarily. So these are the suggestions for how we can live that in a really beautiful and fulfilling way. One thing which is good to note is some people who maybe have had affiliation with certain forest monasteries, you might be somewhat surprised to see this list of encouraging active encouragement between monastics and non-monastics. And one thing which is useful to point out is this spectrum of different types of monks. So you've got a spectrum of, we can call it the forest monk and city monk spectrum. And useful to kind of describe those terms because it's not something which most Americans are used to or have ever heard of before. But it's roughly referring to 2 different archetypes or modes of being a monk and types of monasteries. So the forest monastery is something like a Bayagiri, or if you've been to Thailand, Wat Bananachat. It's a monastery which is situated, as you might guess, in a forest, or in a place which is separated from the city. Bayagiri Monastery is about 2 to 3 hours from San Francisco. So you get some seclusion, and the duty of forest monks is to focus on meditation, giving meditation a lot of time. There's a very open schedule to practice by oneself, and really give a lot of attention to the development of these inner dhammas, these inner qualities. Then there are city monasteries, which you'll see in many Buddhist countries, all Buddhist countries, and even in American cities. And this is more of a community center, somewhere between a church and a community center, where it's a monastery which is situated inside of a city, like in the heart of a city. There's probably hundreds of these just in Bangkok alone. But most large modern American cities also have these city monasteries. And as you might guess, being in the heart of a city, they're more interested in focusing on outreach, or even in America, like a Thai monastery will largely cater to or be like a cultural center for Thai culture. So you'll see there'll be Thai dance taught, Thai language taught at a Thai temple in America. So there's much more engagement with lay people, with non-monastics. So you've got these 2 ends of the spectrum, and even on the forest monk end of things, the forest monastery end of things, you've got more or less grades of seclusion. You've got some place like Wat Dao Dam in Thailand, which is in the middle of a rainforest, and the monks just come down from their small little huts, not even huts sometimes, just a tarp over a bamboo platform. Come down once a day, get some food, and then go back up. Hardly have any interaction with lay people. Then someplace like a Bayagiri, or most monasteries in the Ajahn Chah tradition, there's more interaction with lay people. Lay people can come and stay. There's teachings given on a regular basis. And I think Tan Nisabho and myself are hoping that Clear Mountain Monastery would kind of fit into that role of a forest monastery that has interaction, is close enough to the city where people can come and visit and hear teachings, but maybe not so close that the monastics or people who are coming to stay at the monastery just get drawn into the current of a city life. So that's a little bit of background, and this teaching is it applies to certainly applies to city monks, but also to monks who are senior enough in these forest monasteries that do have more interaction with lay people. So these are teaching duties. The first duty is that a monk should encourage people or keep lay people from doing what's bad. So the word bad here is a technical Pali term, papa, sometimes even translated as evil, but that's a bit of a frightening term in English. What it applies to in Pali and in Buddhism are very specific things. So helping lay people to refrain from breaking the 5 precepts, which are kind of the fundamental, again, voluntary precepts or modes of behavior or ethical standards that people take on themselves to kind of up-level their Buddhist game or just their daily practice. These are mentioned all over the place in the Buddhist texts, and they are refraining from killing, refraining from stealing, refraining from sexual or sensual misconduct, refraining from lying, and refraining from intoxicants. So the role of a monk is to encourage lay people to do these things. And it's not always easy. And the nuances of these things are not always so clear. But for monks, we've got a lot of time. I mean, forest monks especially, we've had time to think about these things. We've had time to talk about these things. Every year in a training monastery, we go deep into the Buddhist monastic training rules, but are just talking about the principles of ethical standards. So we've thought about these things a lot. We've thought about them deeply. So a question might arise for a layperson. Okay, killing, does that just mean people? Okay, I don't do that. Is that good enough? Is that okay? What about flies or mosquitoes? Everybody hates mosquitoes. Can I just smack a mosquito? Or if I do, is that evil? Have I broken a precept? What does it mean to break a precept? What is good? What is bad? These are questions which you can ask a monk. You can obviously talk about these things with other Buddhists or other people who are think deeply about morality. But you can also ask a monk. We've thought about these things, and and the standards in modern day America are not necessarily the same as they are in a Buddhist framework. This first precept does include killing animals, and mosquitoes and insects are animals, but an important principle is that kamma is intention. So if you don't have an intention, you just sweep away an ant or a mosquito on you, no intention to kill it, but it dies. That's not breaking a precept. So, and there's no reason to feel bad about that. So that's just one example. With stealing, you've got all sorts of types of stealing, and questions come up about this stuff. Is it wrong to download pirated music from the internet? You can ask a monk. That's just one example, which, I've certainly talked with people about that and thought about it myself. This next precept about sexual misconduct. What does that mean? And what does it include? The Pali is kamesu michachara. So kamesu actually literally means regarding sensuality. So misconduct regarding sensuality. So this is, if you want to take it, there are just some very basic standards of sexual misconduct, which are not engaging in sexual relations with basically non-consensual sexual relationships. But with sensuality, it gets deeper. So the whole realms of food and sleep, these are very sensual realms, and they're something which all of us have to deal with. Whether you're a monk, a layperson, everybody's got to sleep, everybody's got to eat. And it's not the case that we're born being intelligent about how to do this. Definitely our bodies give us signals, on how to, when is enough, but we don't listen to them oftentimes. Media is another realm of sensuality. How do we relate to media? So, you can come to a monastery, or you can contact a monk. You can come to these sessions and type in a question. We'll have a whole section on questions in maybe 10 or 15 minutes. One thing which monks do is we really pare down our needs, both with sleep and with food. So there's a common saying in Thailand, "Gin noi, non noi." So basically, sleep little and eat little. But what kind of advice is that? To live your life by. I mean, okay, does that mean eat once a week? Does that mean not eat at all? Does it mean sleep 1 hour a day? I mean, these are, what is enough with both of these things? Monastics, forest tradition, we eat once a day. And we've looked at our sleeping habits. We do have communal morning and evening meditations, which we have to attend, but we do have time to explore with how much is enough, how much is too much. What does it feel like when we've slept too much or ate too much? I'm sure everybody here knows what it feels like to eat too much, but how do you actually follow that and get more intelligent about these things? So you get encouragement in this realm from monastics. We're like cheerleaders in this sense. Another way to think of this first thing, this first element of the monastic duty is as encouraging you, they have that image of, you've got the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder. You can think of, most people don't live at a monastery other than monks. But even when you're not in a monastery, you can imagine just take your favorite monk and just miniaturize them and put them on your shoulder. And next time you're wondering, have I slept too much? Have I eaten too much? You'll of course have your common little Satan on your one shoulder, but then, get your favorite little monk, and he or she, you have a nun there as well. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, and that's really just an inner voice, but you can get advice from outside as well. And then with right speech or intoxicants, really, in one sense, so Tan Nisabho and myself are both, we both ordained into the Thai forest tradition, which is an especially strict, orthodox version of a very orthodox and strict Theravada Buddhism. Theravada literally means the teaching of the elders. We're very conservative, in many respects, and fundamentalist even, you could say. But hopefully, I've heard this said, hopefully we can put the fun back into fundamentalism. That's what we would hope. So, we'll talk to you about the, we speak hopefully from a place which is rooted in the oldest texts of Buddhism, the Pali Canon, and from that place give you advice or give advice and hopefully take advice about things which the Buddha talked about. So yeah, there are clear answers. The Buddha does give clear answers about, drinking or lying. Is it ever right to lie if it's a joke? That's a topic for further discussion. About joking, about using intoxicants. Yeah, it's pretty clear in the Pali Canon that there's not really a place for this. If you want to take on this precept for the moderation in all things. The Buddha says it's kind of like a teetotaling attitude. Of course, you don't have to take that precept, and nobody's forcing you, but if you do, then the Theravada Buddhist perspective is to go all in and really just, to give up alcohol. And of course, there's that can take time for people, but inclining to that direction is the fundamentalist, Buddhist, conservative, orthodox, strict approach. And we'll say that. We won't be afraid to say that. We might say it with a bunch of mitigated language, like I just did, because not everybody wants to hear it, but we will hopefully be honest about that. The next quality we'll look at is supporting or encouraging lay people in doing what's good. And the word for good here is kalyāna, which literally means beautiful. So there are many people in India and even in America named Kalyāni, which basically means beautiful. In a Buddhist context, it is synonymous with good, or that which is kusala, or wholesome. And the beauty standards of monastic Buddhism are, as you can tell, very different from modern day American beauty standards. And not just talking about physical realm, but in a spiritual or ethical sense. Certainly on a physical realm, the beauty standards in America are just, you don't want to be getting your standards of what's beautiful from the latest edition of Cosmo or Elle, if these magazines still exist. I apologize, I'm a bit out of the loop. But American beauty standards, both visually, both aesthetically and morally. Aesthetically, they're harmful, and morally, they're confused. You're not going to get a clear answer from modern day media of what's ethical and what isn't. From a Buddhist context, what's beautiful? What is beautiful action? What does it mean to do that which is beautiful? I haven't checked. Hopefully people can actually hear me. Maybe someone could write something on the screen to see if the talk is coming through. But what does it mean to be beautiful? And in a Buddhist context, beautiful action is dana, sila, bhavana. So basically the cultivation of morality, the cultivation of giving and generosity, and the cultivation of meditation. And these are things which bring about inner beauty. All right, you can hear me, thank you. Bringing about inner beauty. This is the shine that you see in ethically, morally, deeply, innerly beautiful people. They've got this shine about them. And the more you hang around monasteries, it's like a inner beauty magnet. You just meet so many beautiful people, and it's this type of beauty which really, really matters, because certainly all the external beauty is just gonna fade away and wrinkle and get all gray, and you know what happens. So, but inner beauty, you can just get more and more shiny with the inner beauty. So monastics will hopefully encourage lay people in this, and themselves, in this aspect of inner beauty, inner goodness. And definitely we've had time to develop meditation, which is a very essential part of inner beauty. The next characteristic, translated here as the monastics think of them, being the lay people, with kindly thoughts. Again, the word kindly here is kalyāna, beauty, beautiful, and it's more monastics think of lay people with kindly or beautiful mind. So we try to have this goodwill towards everyone, both inside the monastery and out. A very important thing. The next aspect on the monastic job criteria is that monastics will teach people about what they haven't heard. And the Buddha's Dhamma is vast. The Pali Canon is probably 20 times bigger than the Bible, maybe more. There are, I think, in the Thai edition, maybe 43 volumes of the Pali Canon, which would fill, a bookshelf this wide, probably 2 or 3 different shelves of that. So there's a lot. And monastics have time to study it, and we do. And there's lots of good advice in there. So, bringing up suttas which people haven't heard, and then clarifying what people have heard. Oftentimes, or a lot of the time, maybe even most of the time, the Theravada canon, the Pali canon, is very succinct, very bare bones. It's like you're just getting the skeleton, like this list we have here of the 6 ways that a monastic attends to lay people and the 5 ways lay people attend to monks. It's very terse, and you kind of have to fill it out. You kind of have to explore it yourself and in discussion with others for how to actually live these different points. The 4 Noble Truths. There is dukkha, there is suffering, there's a cause of dukkha, there's a cessation of dukkha, there's a path leading to the cessation of dukkha. It's easy to say. It's like, 7 words in Pali or something like that. But what does that mean? What does even the word dukkha mean? What is suffering? So we can clarify these things through discussion. And the final quality is that we teach the path to heaven. We teach the path to heaven. Now, many people who in America who come to Buddhism are not interested in heaven, basically have left Christianity or had no religion before, and come to Buddhism to kind of get away from these ideas of an afterlife. And fair enough. There's no requirement, there's no way you could force someone to have a belief about an afterlife, but you can think of it as heaven on earth. And the Buddha gives lots of instructions on how to create a heaven on earth, and you can think of the instructions in that way. There is also space to think of it as heaven after death, and the Buddha does talk about things in that way as well. So what leads to a happy rebirth? Again, we mentioned this earlier, the dana, sila, bhavana, so generosity, morality, mental development, patience, loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, sympathetic joy. These types of things lead upwards, both in this life and in subsequent lives. So, these are things to consider. And as I was guessing, we don't really have so much time to go into the duties or the suggestions of lay people and how lay people relate to monks, can relate to monks, should relate to monks. But I'll just read those out quickly. So we've got lay people can support monastics by loving acts of body, speech, mind, by not turning them away at the gate, and by providing them with material requisites. So monastics, we try to live very simply, but we do have to eat. So what that 4th one means is basically on alms round, which is a very common thing in Buddhist, at least Theravada Buddhist countries. In Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, you'll see monks walking the streets every morning, and people, if they're so inclined, will put a little bit of sticky rice, put a little bit of rice in the monks' bowls, and that's it. And our other needs are very simple. These first 3 qualities of maintaining acts of loving kindness by body, speech, and mind. This word loving kindness here is metta, which many people will be familiar with, is loving kindness. And yeah, you do this, and this isn't just limited for how lay people should relate to monastics, but lay people to lay people, monastics to monastics, monastics to lay people. This is a universal and boundless mental quality, which it behooves us, or is great, and it would be wonderful for all of us to get better and better at loving kindness, and yet doing it in all of these realms. So by body, speech, and mind. And that makes the world a more friendly and kind and beautiful place. So those are some initial thoughts on these qualities of the duties that these social duties of different people. So you can read the rest of the discourse at some point if you're interested. There are, just a note, and this is not a spoiler, but there is some phraseology, from that discourse which is antiquated, and there's talk in there, which was applicable to the society in 5th century BC India. So there's talk about servants and masters, but I think there are, for even if some of these terms are problematic today, I think there are analogs in today's society. So servant and master, basically you can relate to employer and employee, and maybe not every point will have a direct and easy to see correlate, but many of them do. So yeah, so open it up to questions, and I'd love to hear what, I haven't looked actually who's here, but maybe I know some people, and good to see some questions. I already see some people who I know. Okay, so one question is, any idea of where exactly the monastery will be? So this is a question about the upcoming prospective Clear Mountain Monastery. It's not yet certain where it will be, even where Tan Nisabho will be for this upcoming rains retreat. So as monks, we have to settle down for at least 3 months of the year, and that begins in either mid-July or mid-August. So Tan Nisabho will be going and spending this upcoming rains retreat somewhere around Seattle. So I think he's had some offers in Bainbridge Island, and maybe there are some other offers that have popped up, but it's not yet sure. But one thing which the monastery will have to be within, basically what Tan Nisabho is going to be trying to do in this upcoming Vasa, upcoming rains retreat, and the monastery is hopefully going to be relying solely on alms. So many monasteries will have lay stewards who live in the monastery and who will cook in the monastery. Abhayagiri is a good example. There are cooks, people who come to stay at the monastery, or trainees who have not yet become monks who make food every day in the monastery. But many monasteries, most monasteries in Thailand, rely wholly on alms. So that's what this monastery is going to hope to be like. So like the Pacific Hermitage is a good example. All the food that the monks eat, at least 5 days a week these days at the Hermitage, is from people's donations that they give as the monks walk their alms round. And hopefully wherever the monastery will be, it will have to be within walking distance of somewhere, a sizable enough town. Could be Seattle, could be one of the surrounding little areas where the monks could get enough food. Oh, good to see people. Let's see if we have some other questions. So yes, stay tuned. There is the Clear Mountain Monastery website, so you can, as soon as more information is available on that front, it'll be given there. Okay, so we've got a question. So regarding entertainment, can you give any advice on how to use it wisely? What standard do you recommend we use to make a wise choice? Very good question. Because media and entertainment is just so easy these days. I mean, in the time of the Buddha, you at least had to make a little bit of an effort, to go out and go to a concert or go to a recital, whatever it was. But we've got our entertainment right here on the screen in front of us, infinite entertainment, basically. So how do you relate to it skillfully? A number of things to mention is knowing yourself, knowing how much is useful and how much is not useful. And then, oftentimes it can really help to commit to that. So, actually Tan Nisabho and myself, I don't think you would mind me sharing this. Right now, so I'm in university. This is the first time in my monastic life where I've had access to 24-hour Wi-Fi. Basically no one is watching what I do. So I've put a number of kind of limits on my own entertainment, and maybe you could extrapolate from this. So one, actually, there could be 24-hour Wi-Fi, but I actually got the IT person here to create a special monastic Wi-Fi channel, which only has Wi-Fi from, I think it's 3 a.m. to 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. So I can only use the internet between those hours. So I basically can't use the internet at night, which is great because basically I want to be sleeping enough, go to bed early enough that I can wake up early enough because I love the morning. When you put these constraints on your media use, then there's lots of benefits. Like you have more time to practice and do the things you want to do. Other limits, so Tan Nisabho and myself, what we do is, we have very clear parameters that we discuss with each other. So basically, eschewing, basically from monastics, it's pretty clear that we avoid entertainment, or if one's taking on the 8 precepts, not looking at entertainment. But what about documentaries? Are documentaries entertainment? And if they are they not a waste of time? So Tan Nisabho and I have very clear limits with one another, and we are in contact fairly frequently about redefining these limits and making it very clear for ourselves and one another about what we feel is useful. So I don't find it useful to be able to give myself the possibility to watch documentaries or to use any kind of streaming media most days. I've got a limit to say like once every 2 weeks, but that's just monastic. But having a friend who you can talk about these things with, doesn't have to be a monk, but someone else who's maybe trying to do this. So this is great for creating limits. In this same Sigalovada Sutta, there's advice about the benefits actually under the heading of wasting time and money. So when one goes out, the Buddha lists, when one lets oneself look at entertainment, then one is always thinking, where is their singing? Where is their dancing? Where is their music playing? Where are their drum playing? Where are their recitations? Where's their pot blowing? Whatever that is. And I think that everyone here can probably identify with that. So when you don't have limits, then the mind is just continually proliferating about what you could be doing, what you could be entertaining yourself with. So those are a few thoughts about entertainment. So the sutta is the Sigalika Sutta. It's in the footnotes, Digha Nikaya number 31. And this sutta is also called the Gihi Vinaya, which means the layperson's Vinaya, or the non-monastic disciplinary code. So it's kind of fascinating, and this is probably the discourse which goes most deeply into suggestions for parameters of lay life. So it's a great sutta to get to know and to think deeply on. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions. If not, then we can wrap up in the next few minutes. I've got alms round. As you can see, this is my alms bowl, and I'll be going on alms round in just 10 minutes, so I'll wrap up. But yeah, it's nice to see people joining this session, and Tan Nisabho and I will be taking turns. I think I'll be tuning in for another YouTube session this Wednesday evening at 6:30 Pacific time. And then Tan Nisabho, I think, will be doing most Sunday mornings. And yeah, I look forward to meeting people and to getting to know the community that kind of starts to form up around Clear Mountain Monastery. So yeah, take care everybody, and yes, have a good day.